Is this thing live? Is it working? I think it's working now. What's happening, everybody? Everybody's having a fantastic night, day, or whenever, however you're watching it. Hopefully the live feed doesn't flake out, but we'll give it a fantastic whatever day it is that you're watching this. So I get a lot of questions about camshafts, and to be honest with you, it's a real confusing topic for a lot of guys. And so what I want to do is kind of walk you guys through, picking the right cam if you're deciding to go with a cam for your car. Why is it that Hemis don't really typically pick up a lot with cams? There's some reasons for that. And answer any questions you guys might have about picking out a cam, what's the right cam for your combination, why even go with a cam to begin with. All of that can be answered, maybe, hopefully, in this live show. Now, primarily we're talking about the Gen 3 Hemi, but the problem is that the Gen 3 Hemi is going to be compared to combinations that you would find either in old small block Chevys, LS, all kinds of different combinations. And the problem is that cams are cams. They have no idea what engine they're in. They're going to do what they're basically designed to do. Low profiles are always going to follow certain criteria. In other words, if you put a low profile together, it's going to do basically the same thing regardless of what engine that it's in. But it's the rest of the combination that's got to work in concert. It's a concert, not a solo show. So the heads have got to be able to flow right. You don't want a huge cam with terrible heads. It's not going to make a whole lot of power. It's going to be undrivable, and it's just going to be kind of a real flat line of a car. Big heads and small cams work out great, but big heads and big cams work out even better. But it all depends on what you're putting the combination together for. And to be honest with you, most street combinations, going really big with a cam, it's adorable for about, about the first 4 to 5 months. You get something with a real heavy, hard chop and making all the noise and all of that, but you get to deal with the low vacuum. You get to deal with, brakes not working as well as you would hope in some cases. But for the most part, you're going to be dealing with a car that is just a little bit too rowdy basically all the time. And for a lot of guys that gets a little bit old, there's always a compromise. And that's the point that I'm looking to show here. So anyway, let me check in with you guys real quick. Sovereign Knight is in, got the mod on the job. Eric is in. What up, Professor B? Got the flex. Sovereign saying, hey, the connection is not good. Yeah, I don't know what the deal has been lately. We had a bad storm, and ever since then, everything has been running slow. Sinister is in. Moto X is saying, hey, Brian, what's up, Moto? Sovereign saying it's cutting in and out. I thought it was just me. Nope. Hey, good evening, sir. Saying it seems to be getting a little better. Good. Well, hopefully this thing doesn't completely flake out like it has at least tried to do a couple of times in the past. So we'll see how this thing works out. Sometimes it takes this thing a minute or two to get warmed up. So we'll see how it all ends up working out. So camshafts, it depends on what you've got, really. The funny thing is that there's always going to be trade-offs with camshafts. The idea that you get to have a combination with these modern, the more modern Gen 3s with the VVT, being able to rock that intake center line, basically put it in a bit of a sweet spot, makes things kind of nice. But the reality is that you start to lose a lot of that capability once you start getting significantly more duration. And to be honest, it doesn't take much more duration than the factory cams to get you there. 5.7s, if memory serves me correctly, are not that big of a cam. They typically have I think it's I'm just going to call it a 190, 200 split on the duration. They do have a little bit tighter lobe separation angle. If I'm not mistaken, it's like 115 for the 5.7. It's actually not a bad little cam, but suffers from just not having, it's got 115 degree lobe separation. Really an engine of that size, you really need to bring the LSA in. You don't really need much more duration, just a kick more, but bring that in and you'll have a ton more mid-range power out of that 5.7. Plus, it'll sound good. and it won't be too hard to tune with the smaller duration numbers. I really don't recommend going much more than about 220 on the intake side and about 220-ish, 230 on the exhaust side on the 5.7. And really much tighter if you're looking to tune the thing. This is for the cars, by the way, without the variable runner intake, just for tuning's sake. That a cam profile with a lobe separation angle of around 113, 114 is going to be pretty happy. And that's really where the aftermarket is settled in. To give you guys an idea, comp cams, they're whatever, I forget the designation. Anyway, it's the one that's in the Mopar, I almost said Mopar performance parts, the direct connection catalog. That particular cam is real close to what you would see a lot of guys running in the aftermarket for kind of a bit of a custom grind, except it's got a wider lobe separation angle to make life easier on tuners. It's wider by about 2 to even maybe 3 degrees than I would like to see on the street. And because of that, it's going to be a little bit softer through the mid-range, and it's going to kind of carry power a little bit better on the big end, but not by much. And I think most guys would rather have the tighter lobe sep and have something that's going to hit significantly harder and just have that feel of having a bit more snap to it through the mid-range and upper mid-range. But if you're looking at that cam, it's really not a bad cam at all. In fact, on the tuning side, I don't even think that that your efficiencies are going to be all that different from idle all the way through the power band. It's just that the other cam is going to make a bit more power. So something to consider there. But I always like starting with the 5.7s in that particular cam because it kind of gives us a baseline for where we're going to go. Let's see. Rob's saying biggest cam possible with all the chops. You know, it's funny. When you're putting a cam together, what the very first really good performing cam that I put together for the Gen 3s is that Pike's Performance cam. It's the CDO1 that I put together. That was actually and it's funny because you'll go through a number of putting math together, and you go through a number of open and close points, and everything it turns into soup. Really, you'll just have all these cam profiles that are basically the same cam, but you have to pick something to put on the cam card, right? So that cam's pretty funny. It wasn't the first profile that I came up with, but it was a compromise between one that was a bit more aggressive and one that probably, well, I can tell you now, it just wouldn't have done quite as well. It's a little bit smaller. It literally fell right in between a couple of cams I put together. That first cam that was a bit more aggressive ended up becoming another grind for them. But yeah, CDO1 or CDO2. But the thing is that cam makes power everywhere on a 392. I mean, it's from the hit all the way through the power band. Basically makes the car act like it has more cubic inches. And that's just a testament to the fact that the car needs more camshaft to take advantage of the cylinder heads and the intake manifold that it's got, which kind of brings me to my next point, stock camshafts. The stock camshaft, especially for you 6.4 guys, we talked about the 5.7 a little bit. Let's talk about the 6.4 now. The stock 6.4 camshaft is a goofy looking camshaft, but it makes sense. It just doesn't make sense to me. Basically, it looks like this. It's the 6.4 is a 215, 220 or 215, 222. And it's got 120 degree lobe separation angle. Actually, I believe it's 120 and a half. What's weird about that, though, is that I've seen different specifications for that cam. I've seen, not that it really makes that much of a difference, but 120, I've seen 120 and a half, I've seen 121. And the weird thing about having a lobe separation angle that is that spread out is that if you have a 5.7, that cam makes for one hell of a positive displacement supercharger for your car. So if you're putting like an E-Force kit on say a 5.7 in a Challenger, and you want to put a cam in it while you're waiting on the parts to show up, get you that 392 cam, because that real wide lobe separation angle promotes boost response down low. The other thing that it does, which is kind of neat, is that for a positive displacement supercharger, because that lobe separation angle is so wide, it's going to drag power way to the right side of the graph. And so, kind of word to the wise there for you. If you decide to go that route, there's a little bit of a cheat code for you in that camshaft. I wouldn't bother with it for an NA combo, although it is a little bit better in terms of duration. And so it'll make a bit more power, but again, it's going to make more power than the stock 5.7 cam just because it's got more duration. So in saying all of that, the 6.4 cam is actually pretty good. We talked about 215 degrees of duration on the intake side, but the ability to rock that thing back and forth helps quite a bit. And the heads flow like crazy on the Hemis, and the intake manifold isn't half bad. So you end up with a cam that is kind of small on the duration side, but decent on the lift. That thing's got 577 lift, and I believe it's 564 lift or 554 lift on the exhaust. It's not really a slouch of a cam. And when you combine that with a great set of heads, it makes for an engine that is fairly easy to tune, again, because the lobe separation angle is so wide. Intake runner is really active, super high vacuum. Again, that makes the car easy to tune for the street, but it also wants to carry power pretty far out, not because of just the cam, but because the heads and the cam are working together to flow air on the big ends. Why that 392, basically shy of 400 cubic inch engine, is making 500 horsepower, and it's a 2-valve. Intake manifold, I get that too. But the fact of the matter is the thing is kind of hitting way above its weight class when you think about it. But if you think about it, the LS, what about the LS? Well, the LS is basically, we're talking about the LS3 right now, not really messing with the LT stuff, but it falls under the same umbrella. The LS3, for example, kind of the darling of the engine swap world, if you will, that particular combination at 435 horsepower is so undercammed. It's not even funny. I mean, if you were to put the cam that's in the 392 into an LS3, the same specifications, it would make about the same power as a 392. It'd be just a bit shy because it's a smaller displacement, but the LS3 heads flow just about what those Hemi heads flow. They're really good heads, but again, they come to the party with just not much to offer in terms of a camshaft, and because of that, they just don't make as much power. But when you put a cam in them, they wake up like crazy because you're starting from a place that is handicapped, really. So you can throw quite a bit of cam at those things, and that's why they pick up a lot of power. And it's relative to the amount of power that they're making stock. You're just not really going to get there with the Gen 3, primarily because you're already starting off in it from a pretty good place. Not to mention, you start putting really big camshafts into an engine with a lot of flow capacity, but not a lot of velocity down low, and you get a car that can be a bit of a bear to tune. Just saying. There's reasons why they stopped where they did, although they could have gone a little bit more aggressive. There's reasons why they stopped where they did with that stock camshaft. But let me check in with you guys real quick. David saying, is it dangerous to keep running E85 on a stock 392 with a 93 tune? Keep saying too lean, no complaints at wide open throttle, though. I don't know what's saying too lean. There's really not you can check on a code, but is it dangerous to keep running 85 on a stock 392 with the 93 octane tune? Yeah, because you are going outside of your injector pulse width accommodation. In other words, how much the computer will see the injectors opening, and will actually throw a code. Anyway, if you're doing that, I would not recommend doing it at all anymore. Get a tune specifically for it. You're leaving power on the table without doing the tune. In fact, you're probably down on power based on 93 octane. Let's see. Suresh, what is an example of the cam that you're recommending for what? I haven't recommended a cam yet. So give me a combination and I'll give you an idea. The specs that I was giving earlier were generic specs for a 5.7. I haven't really gotten into what I would put together for a 6.4, or what I have put together for a 6.4. I've put together a lot of cams for 6.4s. X is saying, what up, Professor B? Got the flag saying I did some 0 to 60 hits on a silent country back road with the wife, and with the 5.7 with a cat back was addictive. Very nice. Robert's in from Wisconsin. What's up, man? Jay is in. Jay Masters in. Hope all is well. Hope all is well with you. Oh, wait a minute. Got to throw my H-Towns on. I like it. Ball guy with the shades. Hemi Head is saying, I've been thinking about checking my 392 exhaust manifold bolt torque to ensure they are all right. Ever done that? Any suggestions? No, never really messed with that. It's not that hard to do if you've got a lift. But no, if you don't have any reason to check them, I wouldn't really worry about it. I've never checked mine, so that'll give you an idea for how much I'm thinking about it. The manifolds on the car, for the 392s especially, and the Hellcats, they're a little bit, well, they're significantly different than the ones on the 5.7s, and those logs have a tendency to back off. 392s, not so much, or the Hellcats. Clutch is saying, I'm surprised it runs at all at E85, the 93 tune. The injectors should not be able to handle that and should cause permanent damage pretty quickly. Yeah, I mean, it's very, very possible. Again, you're looking at a 30% difference. So Donnie's saying he went with the HRT stage 2 on a 5.7. Definitely need a higher stall converter. Yep. A lot of it has to do with the fact, though, it's got such a wide lobe set, man. So I've got a cam that's it's the Joker grind that is kind of similar to the stage 2. But it's not a total departure from it. But the wider lobe set, the problem with the wide lobe separation angle is that it can make the car lazy at partial throttle high load conditions, or wide open throttle high load conditions through the mid range. That's really where you lose all your power with a wide lobe separation angle. That's why the 392s are, I mean, it's a cheat code to put a cam together for one of those things, because it's just, I mean, you can just rattle off some specifications and it'll just work. And the reason why it works so well is because it starts off with such a crazy wide lobe separation angle. Madera's saying, what up, B? What up? Raging Bull saying, what up? Always enjoy the live chats. Let's get the likes up. Yes. More likes, please. Sure, saying the stock 5.7. Yeah, that's what we're just talking about. Something around 230 on the intake side, 228-ish on the exhaust. The HRT stage 2 is a good cam off the shelf. It's a good street cam. I would prefer to have a cam with a tighter lobe separation angle, but it's not going to offer up the idle quality that the HRT will have. So the HRTs have a little bit smoother idle, and it will work a little bit better with the stock converter-ish. Actually, having a tighter lobe set, it may give it a bit of a surge at idle. You can always kick the idle up a little bit to kind of help to remedy some of that out. But on tip in and higher load tip in conditions, that tighter lobe step is going to make a little bit more power. So, but they're both good cams, but we're just kind of talking generically. So if we're talking about specific cams, shoot me a cam, shoot me the specs. I can tell you how it'd work with that combination. J Master is asking, what are your thoughts on the new direct port Nitrous kit from Nitrous Express? Has a plate that mounts underneath the intake manifold. Seems like a slick rig. I like those a lot, but not that there's no caveat to it. I like them a lot. I prefer to see direct port nitrous injection as opposed to anything going through the throttle body, especially a wet kit. I would prefer that you have direct plate. That's the way that nitrous oxide was originally meant to be used. Going back basically close to 100 years ago when they started using nitrous oxide on aircraft engines. So that's how it was designed to be used, was as a true port injected solution to making power, because they knew that you try to inject it anywhere else, you could potentially have a distribution issue, even though water methanol, I know in some cases, was before the supercharger. It was also used for charge cooling, but it wasn't the best. I like it. I like the idea of it. I haven't really seen the setup, but I have heard about it. And I would way prefer the direct, the direct injection. BB saying, for the 6.1 guys, here's my cam info. 112 lobe sep, 218, 226. Carl says long tubes. Oh, by the way, long tubes should be known that it is a prerequisite. If you're putting a cam in the car, don't put a cam in the car without putting long tubes on it. Cold air push rods, Hellcat lifters, full exhaust, no cats, 93 tune, dynos, 470 wheel. And that is the 6.1, by the way, is actually one of the better examples of how an engine can really take advantage of a camshaft and not pay some of the penalty of having the heads that flow 330 CFM. It's not always a good thing. The 6.1 heads flow about 275-ish. And you might go, well, that's less power. No, it's not, because it's okay. So the ceiling might not be as high, but you've got better velocity going through the head at any given RPM. And so you can put cams together that are a bit more traditional looking in terms of having a little bit more duration, a little bit tighter lobe sep, and they work better on the 6.1 than they would with a cam. Then that cam would work in one of the newer 6.4s, because they're tumble port heads. But in this case, it's just, the air just kind of falls into the port relative to how it flows through the 6.1. It's another reason why LSs are so good, especially with cams, because they flow high numbers, but they also have good velocity. But thank you, BB. I appreciate that. That fun cam, by the way. And that's, again, the 6.1 is kind of a cheat code for hot rod guys. And that's one of the reasons why you can get away with that tighter lobe sep. 112 with the newer heads gets, in some cases, can get a little bit dicey just because you've got more overlap. Although some of the smaller duration cams with very tight lobe separation angles, 110, 109, 108, they actually work really good, but you've got to keep the duration to a minimum to drag them that tight. BB saying, seems high, but dynos are always funny. Man, y'all know my position on dynos. I cannot stand. Listen, I want a dyno to just show me the graph so that I know everything is healthy and the graph has the right shape to it. This is what I wish, in a way, that there was a way for a dyno to where you put the car on the dyno and you zero out the dyno the way that you would zero out a scale. And then you make power and it goes from 0 to 100. Like every car makes a peak of 100 horsepower. Doesn't matter if it's making 1,000 or 500. It's almost like scale correcting the dyno, because I swear I've seen dynos on the same day. I know it doesn't make any sense. If you're tuning the car, you get a percentage, you get a true percentage of what the thing's making. Anyway, I've seen the same dyno on the same day with the same car strapped to the same dyno that wasn't removed, fluctuate in power 2%. Here's the other thing, and that's corrected numbers. The other thing is the barometric pressure sensor and the temperature sensor in the dyno. If those things act up and you have the wrong barometric pressure or a barometric pressure sensor that's a little bit off for whatever reason, it will show a number on the corrected side that will screw your head up. Ask me how I know. I'm the guy that had to replace part of the motherboard looking thing in a Mustang dyno, not once, but twice, because of bad sensors and it was a corrupt, whatever the circuitry was, that stuff was corrupt. So the sensor was correct. It was how that sensor's information was being processed that was wrong. Anyway, the funny thing about that, though, is that, okay, so when you work at a shop, we were talking about dynos now. So when you work at a shop, these are the things that you have to contend with. When you put a cam together for somebody, they take it to somebody. I put it on so-and-so's dyno and it didn't make any power. Meh. Only to find out that their baro pressure sensor's jacked up, which that happened. And I had to diagnose this from literally half a continent away. Like, why is it that the bald dude in Texas is telling some dude in Florida that his dyno's jacked up? Like, you can't look at that and tell. Anyway, that sparked an argument. Like, I was fit to be tied because this guy was being a complete douchehead, and I literally walked him through to go look. Anyway, it was just when it was all said and done, the guy apologized, but I was like, dude, your apology is unaccepted because your conduct was unacceptable. Anyway, water under the bridge, but still, dynos are weird. I don't like messing with them, and I wish I could just correct them. Anyway, getting back to it. I'm more interested in the graph than I am in the number. If the graph moves up, then I know it's making more power. If the graph is flat, it's not. If it goes down, it makes less. That's all I really care about. Let's see. Oh, Donnie's saying, yeah, I definitely noticed the lazy low end with my 60 foot with the HRT2. Was thinking of a 3400-ish stall to remedy. Tuning idle was a pain in the ass. Yeah, it can be. It certainly can be. Oh, so you're saying I'm super new to cam info, so I don't know what those numbers mean. It's just for how long. Duration is how long the valves are open. Lift is how much the valve is open. Intake center line is where the intake of that the center line, the actual center of the intake lobe is. Lobe separation angle is how wide or how narrow the lobes are. Let's see. Oh, Clutch is saying, I've heard a lot of times that when people bring their modified 392s to a strip, the drive shaft is the first thing to go. I've never heard of a drive shaft letting go. And I want to upgrade if necessary before I go, or should the stock be fine? I mean, dude, look, so what kills drive shafts is wheel hop. That's the primary thing it'll shorten the life. I can tell you that. So what I would suggest is be honest with yourself. How much wheel hop have you had? Practice your launches. If you're getting wheel hop on the launch, which I doubt that you would at the drag strip, but you might. Depends on track prep, the tire that you're running, tire pressure, etc. But aftermarket drive shafts they're like a catch-22 for me. I understand the need, and DSS had some pretty good drive shafts out now. But for the longest time, you guys got to remember, I was testing drive shafts and I'd gone through several DSSs. And it ended up not working out. What was the other one that I had? It was, oh, damn it. The name always escapes me because I did my level best to try to forget the experience. Anyway, it'll come to me when I wake up tomorrow morning, but you get the idea. It was just a nightmare with the drive shafts with vibration. So, anyway, I like the factory drive shafts personally, and it's really hard for me to think of ever hearing of any 392 car, whether it was manual or automatic transmission, snapping a drive shaft. The Hellcats did, but the Hellcats were snapping early, like my 2015. They would snap that drive shaft, but that was usually after some wheel hop, or those cars were modified significantly. So, and they were still running the stock shafts. Oh man, Demonology is in. What's up, my man? B Mason, you the man. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. Everybody kick over to Demonology's channel. Make sure you're keeping up with his shenanigans. My man's out there snatching souls. But thank you very much, man. I appreciate the contribution to the cause. Thank you. Thank you. Trying to get these folks schooled up on some camshaftery, talking primarily NA stuff. Yeah, for the Hellcat guys, what's funny is that this is one of those funny things. I really don't recommend, unless you're willing to really get into the tuning side with a Hellcat, I really wouldn't recommend a cam for a street driven Hellcat unless you have pulleyed it and you want to get a little bit more power out of the thing and maybe give it a little bit of theater with an idle. But for the Hellcat stuff, it's just so much easier to just pulley the problem away. And not to mention, with the Hellcats too, before I get too deep into the NA stuff, for the Hellcats, here's the problem. Okay, so right now we're running 970s, 980s down here in really good air, admittedly, but real consistent mid 970s, 980s with just a 285 pulley. And, a little bit of weight reduction, but nothing major. I think that's with the passenger seat, but with a rear seat delete and a drag pack. That's it. Stock catalytic converters, stock manifolds. There's nothing special about that combination. Other than the fact, and that's on 93 octane with a little bit of butane as a kicker, but I don't even know that the butane is altogether necessary, but it is kind of necessary as an insurance policy. How much faster would that car go with a cam? Well, you'd lose a little bit of boost with the cam, depending on how big or aggressive you decided to get with this little experiment here. But even with a modest cam, the fuel pump would probably still deal with it on gasoline, certainly not on any kind of E85. I'd probably say go from a 285 to a 275 pulley, but the problem is you start running into cylinder pressure issues, fuel quality issues at that point, and it's like, man, if you throw any more manifold pressure at it, you might not be able to manage it with 93 octane. So that's where it sits. But anyway, so you end up with kind of a catch-22. Yeah, you're dropping boost with more camshaft, but you're still going to be making about the same power, boosted up a little bit. You're still going to be ramping up your cylinder pressure, which can potentially be a problem with gasoline. So, these cars, they're running pretty close to being on the edge of what gasoline can manage from just a detonation threshold. So just keep that in the back of your mind for you Hellcat guys. Probably would chill with the cam, but for the NA guys, you know, if you're looking to add some theater, I would definitely recommend it, although it's pricey. A lot of the guys that do put mild, not crazy cams, but some, and I say mild's a relative term here, but for the guys that decide they want to put something in the 392s, what you hear quite a bit out of those guys is, I wish I would have done this earlier. But thank you again, Demonology. I appreciate that, buddy. Gary's asking, hey, B, what size are your rear drag tires? They are 305, 45, 17 for Mickey Thompson, and they are 20. What are you? Just happen to have a set sitting right here. 28, 10, 50, 17s. I didn't think they were 28 5s. Yeah, 28, 10, 50, 17s. Asking if you have to alter the wheel well to run them. No, you don't have to alter the wheel well, but you do have to run shorter, because they're 17-inch wheels, shorter end links. I think B. Woody sells those. Using Mickey Thompson 20s, and they won't hook. I can understand that. I use a set of Nitto Tri-5 R2s, and I'm only running those until a Turo comes out with their drag radial. But I'm running those, and there's just like having a summer tire on the back of the car. BB Zen saying, do you know if the 6-piston calipers are a bolt-on for pre-15 Challengers and SRT8s? I've seen Scat Packs convert to the 6 pistons from the 4-piston, and I think Scat Packs have the same caliper. You know, I think they will with you'd have to have the backing plate, the part where the caliper actually bolts onto the thing. You know, I don't know. I've never done that swap on that car. If anything, I would be trying to get rid of my 6 pistons and throw some 4 pistons on there just to save a little bit of weight. Thanks, Pete. BB78 saying, Mike 92, the 6-piston brakes are a lot heavier. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Keep in mind, if you do that swap, you will slow down. Well, I mean, hey, listen, with mine, you got to remember, we were running low 11s with a pair of SRT 392s, which have the same brakes as the Hellcat. So I don't know how much it hurts performance, but I can tell you that it stops a lot better with them, although they do have a tendency with the stock pads to make a ton of dust. So here's kind of the funny thing. When guys make the switch to the bigger brakes, a lot of times the first thing they notice is that they're not necessarily far and away better from what they're coming away from, with the only real big difference there being that you will have more thermal capacity, meaning you won't have as much brake fade. So there's that. Gary, thank you very much, man. I appreciate that. Saying thank you for thank you for the live and help with my build. All I lack is my clutch and a few suspension parts. Rest is waiting to be installed. Very nice. Well, thank you for the kind words, my friend. Thank you for the contribution. I appreciate that. Yeah, let us know how it's coming, man. Keep us all informed. But thank you very much for the contribution to the cause, my friend. Let's see. Where was I? Sovereign saying, hit that like button. I love how he did the thing like that's cool. Let's see. Let me get back down here. Bear with me. Bear with me, y'all. Madeira's asking, what would you recommend to make a truck 392 make the same numbers as the car 392? The truck 392 has less compression, and a significantly less aggressive cam. The cam in the truck 6.4 is there basically to run more or less at wide open, dragging stuff up and down a mountain. You know, it's kind of funny. It's in terms of power output, it's not that far away from the 5.7, but it just makes more torque basically everywhere, but it's not that far from it. But the 6.4, yeah, you can definitely make power with it. But again, it's going to lack a little bit with compression ratio, but that's not that big of a deal. It's a cam swap and an exhaust away, though. It's got an awesome intake manifold, by the way. The truck intakes are freaking. The 6.4 truck intake is the best flowing Gen 3 Hemi intake. It sucks that you can't put it on a car because it's really good. Summer's saying nitrous oxide. Yeah, it does. Hemi said he cleaned his wheels, put the power stops on the Cat on Friday. Where do you jack the rear end at? So right in front of the rear tire you'll see the little jacking puck back there. It's a little black, like almost looks like a urethane bushing sticking down. That's where you jack the car up from. Don't jack it up from the rear diff. That you can break the fins off of the diff very easily by doing that. Let's see. Wiles drive shafts. See, I told you it was going to hit me out of nowhere. Wiles drive shafts were the ones that I had the biggest issues with in general. But a lot of that had to do with U joints that weren't right, and there was a lot of stuff going on with that. But anyway, this kind of comes back to you out of nowhere. Weird experience. Hemi's saying you can eat off those wheels now. Yes, absolutely. Gary's hanging out with good looking. Let's see. Brandon's saying looking for a great cam for my 6.1. That's not, oh, wait, it stops. That's not, well, if you're looking for a great cam for your 6.1, so we just, hang on, let me go through the specs on this one up here again. So BB78's 112 with a 218 and a 226. You could actually sneak by with more cam than that on a 6.1. I mean, 112, I like. 218, 226, I would probably, if it's my car, go a little bit more aggressive than that. I'd probably be somewhere in the 223, 230 range. Obviously with long tubes as well. But I like the 112 degree lobe set. Let's see. And obviously the tune to go along with it. I like for the 6 liter sized engines for the street, that there's kind of a magic number in there for the Hemis. If you want to kind of look at it like this, the 223-ish number is a really good number. There's another one you could put in the car that would be a little bit more aggressive. I would say 224, 232 would be another really good split on a 113 lobe separation angle for a 6.1. That would be bellissimo with that 6.1. It'd be a little bit rowdy, but it would definitely make really good power, and it would work well with that stock intake too. That went, so that particular grind, if you've ever heard any generic cammed LS, a lot of those cars, trucks, doesn't matter what it is, will err on the side of what basically they're 224, 230 cams. some of them are 222, 228s, but a lot of those guys will run that cam profile, that lobe size with, I did 580, 590 lift, give or take. And almost all of them, I mean, like to a number, I would say like 90% of them are on a 113 lobe separation angle. And that works really well with cylinder heads. Like I was saying when I first started, the engine has the cam, I should say, has no idea what engine it's in. It's just going to do what it does. But when you've got heads that are flowing on a 400-ish, like a 375 to 410 cubic inch engine, if you've got flow numbers somewhere around 275, that mild, I say mild, but you've got a set of heads that are going to flow around 275, a cam that's going to be around 230, 236 is about as big as you would really ever want to go for the street, just so that it makes power basically everywhere. Now, you can always drag more power out of it by either opening up the lobe separation angle, rocking it back, or what have you. But the reality is that you're really not going to get more power out of it. You're going to start to give up drivability. And then the power that the cam is going to try to make just won't be supported by the cylinder heads or the intake manifold, because either the cam's going to want to spin at a significantly higher RPM than your intake manifold will be able to provide, which is the big limitation. That's when you go with one of the, the spider style intakes. In other words, like the Holley high ram, you always hear about that one. The sniper intake from Holley for the Gen 3s, that's when you move to those intakes. The problem with that is that those intakes wipe out all of your bottom end torque, and they trade that power down low for power up top. So yeah, you can pick up 15, 20 horsepower with that intake, provided you have the right camshaft to go with it. And on top of that, you've got to have the understanding that yes, you are giving up power down low, and you are increasingly making it more the case that you're going to need to put a different converter in the car if it's an automatic. Circle D is your friend. Gary, thank you very much, buddy. Didn't have a question unless there's unless Gary has a question somewhere else up here that I haven't gotten to yet. Oh, good. Sovereign got a link over to Demonology's channel. Very good. Let's see. But very cool. Thank you, Gary. Appreciate that, brother. Oh, Hemi saying, I just saw this. Hemi saying he used the rear lower suspension mount for the jack. You can, so it's right there, right next to the wheel well, just forward of the wheel well underneath. If you go underneath there and just kind of shine your light, you'll see it. It'll just pop up out of nowhere. And that's where we put the jacks for our cars. And then up front, I use a hockey puck, and I put the hockey puck right where the tie down eyelet is. There, you'll see the hole in the like there's a built-in kind of a cradle. That's where I put the hockey puck to lift the front of the cars. So you have to put I've got one of those long Harbor Freight low profile jacks, and I slide that pretty much all the way up underneath the car. And then make sure I don't whack the wall whenever I start wailing on it. But thank you again, guys. I appreciate that. Let's see. Hemi Dad said he can eat off those wheels now. Absolutely. Power stops are good brakes. Let's see. Raging Bull's got a fun question. How is a Hellcat cam different from a 392? It's really not that different. Actually, it's very different, but it's really not. So everything on the intake side of a 392 and a Hellcat cam are identical. You're still looking at the same intake duration. Intake center lines is basically cut off the same core. The only difference between a Hellcat cam and a 392 cam is that a Hellcat's got 10 more degrees of duration on the exhaust side. And to take that a step further, the difference between the Hellcat cam and the Red Eye or Demon cam is that, and this is where things get a little bit weird, because I have seen over the years several different reports, that's the only way I can really put it politely, on what those specifications are, but they basically look like this. The Hellcat cam is like a 215, 238 or 215, 240 grind. The Demon cam is something around this spec. It's like a 218 or a 220 with a 240 exhaust duration. So, but they both have very wide, all three of them have very wide lobe separation angles of 120 to 121 degrees. So when you look at it from that point of view, one of the interesting things, this is where, this is kind of funny, but this is where my theory that they just didn't change the cam, when they were changing the cam for the 6.4, they were also developing the Hellcat engine based off of the 6.4 initially. What a lot of folks don't realize is that the Hellcat engine was going to be a IHI supercharger 6.4 liter making less boost. And it was going to be making less power than the Hellcat makes now. I think the very first setup that they ran was making like 650 horsepower. So anyway, that's going back. I mean, I remember reading about this stuff early on in this thing's development. Somebody actually has the test mule engine for I forget, they're maybe testing the IHI blower on the thing, but it's a 6.4 BGE block 6.4, and that's what they're testing with it. So kind of neat there. But yeah, good question. Those are the specs though. And like, if you're wondering what the difference is, those are the difference. And again, Demonology, thank you, bro. Appreciate it, man. Got everybody saying what's up to you in here. Very cool. Demonology said, chilling here in this knowledge B Mason is given. Thank you. And the funny thing, so it's our night 392. Guitar Man saying finally made a live video. Very nice. Summer's got Demonology's channel up there. Guys, always make sure you're keeping up with all his stuff. Brandon's asking, what comp cam for an NA build 6.1? So the HRT line is actually pretty good. They've got a stage 2, which is the one that a lot of guys are moving towards, for the 6.1s that isn't that bad. It falls into that like 220-ish, 230 duration number. And again, without knowing the specific grind and the specific specifications, I can tell you that for the 6.1, again, I would probably be looking, and by the way, it is a different core. You cannot run the later 6.2, 6.4, 5.7 cams in the 5.7 and 6.1. They didn't have VVT, and that core has the provision on the snout of that cam for the VVT. Even though you're locking them out, it still has to fit in the block. That's the difference between the blocks. But what you'll find is a cam for yours around 220 to 230 is a good street grind. I would prefer to see a lobe sep around that 113 is kind of a good number. The heads are still really good, and they allow that thing to breathe out past 5,000 RPM better, which is really what the car needs. It just needs to breathe a little bit better up top, and that extra duration will help it breathe up top, and the tighter lobe sep will give you that snap right off the line, and it'll make it sound good too. So I would say start at around there. I might not necessarily go to a 218. That's a little bit less duration I'd like to see, but that 218 on a 112 is going to be a really good running cam too. So, and this is where with camshafts, everybody is right and everybody is wrong when it comes to specing camshafts, because there's so many different ways to get from point A to point B with a cam. I know a lot of guys that absolutely love the lower duration numbers and higher lift. I don't necessarily like going that direction, because that tighter duration and higher lift can be a little bit harder on valve train components. That ramp is going to be more aggressive. It's going to want to come up and come down to that lift point. But for me, what I've seen that works well, again, and I'll wear this out, so you'll end up, it'll be almost like a nervous tick, but that 220 on the intake, 230-ish. So it could be like 222, 228. That's a good grind too. Lobe sep about 113. You can sneak that down to 12 if you like. Pick up a little bit more bottom end and mid range, but it'll have a little bit raspier of or a little bit rowdier, I should say, of a idle quality, and that can get a little bit old, especially if you get into a little bit of a buck. The tighter the LSA, the more, it's always really important that your tuner speaks fluent Mopar, but the tighter the LSA, the more important that it is, because it's tougher to tune those down low. Big duration, tight lobe sep, that's when it gets a little bit difficult with these Hemis, especially with the later ones, but the 6 ones you can get away with a little bit more. Will saying, good Lord, demonology. Thank you, sir. Freelancer. Got the smiles on. Sovereign's hanging out with demonology. Let's see. Gary Payne saying hello. What's up, man? Sovereign saying spinning ain't winning. True that. Guitar Man's asking, does anybody make a rear solid axle conversion for the Challenger? Yeah, there's one that just came out. And you're gonna have to forgive me for not being able to remember which one it is. Actually, a 4-link setup. It's actually not a. It's not a true solid rear axle. It's actually there's one that's a 4-link that is. So you'd have to look up. I can't remember the name of it. 4-link LX platform rear diff conversion, I think, is what you'd have to look up. There's another one that's real new. It's kind of not even really out yet. That what it's doing, it's a almost like a cradle replacement for the rear. And what it does is it takes the diff and it moves it up into the cradle a little bit more. I don't know, by an amount. The reason why that's important is because it'll take, at static load, it'll take the half shafts and it'll droop them down a little bit. You might say, well, that's no good. Well, it's not ideal, but believe me when I tell you, it's a CV joint. It'll do what it's supposed to do. But at launch, the idea is that it flattens out those CV shafts to where they're more straight and in line under heavy load. Haven't done much looking into that, but I've heard some things about it. So I'm looking forward to catching up with that. But there's some folks that are kind of getting into this a little bit more here lately. And again, Gary, thank you very much for the generous contribution, my friend. Sovereign saying ceramic brakes. Yes. Hemi Dad saying he used the pucks for the jack stands. Yeah, I keep pucks on tap. And again, Gary Lackey, thank you too, buddy. Sovereign saying 40 watchers, only 27 likes. Hit that like button, guys. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe, hit the bell. Make sure you hit the bell to where it does do the bell thing. I get it. It's the way that the algorithms work, things kind of get kind of weird. So you got to hit the bell and then hit the personal notifications. Someone saying demonology is the best. Dad saying, have you already covered your meeting you were supposed to have? I've been having a lot of meetings lately. So yeah, remind me which one. Raging's asking, doesn't the drag pack use a solid rear axle? Yes, it does, but I don't think Mopar is offering. You'd have to check with Direct Connection and see if they're going to be offering a conversion package for your independent rear suspension. It would be a full cradle replacement, or at least a partial cradle replacement, or it would be utilizing the cradle to actually have everything up in there. The drag pack's a little bit different setup back there. I know that for sure. Guitarman saying, cool, thank you. I can't help it. I'm old school. Not a problem there. Harvard saying dodging demons in a Hellcat. Blue Collar's asking, any info about Direct Connection for the 21 Trackhawks? Sort of. Actually, there is information. It's just not what you're going to want to hear. So Direct Connection, and this is going to be me going off on a little bit of a tangent. The problem with Direct Connection is not getting any of the electronic stuff sorted out at this time. So if you've got a Hellcat or a Red Eye, or you're planning on buying a Hellcat or a Red Eye and you want to get those parts on your car, the problem that you're going to have is that they are not available yet. So whatever they're going to be coming out with, it will be for boosted applications only, which would include Hellcat, Red Eye, and by default, Demon ish. Demon would only maybe be able to manage the pulley. Demon's actually kind of on the fence on this one. Trackhawk, they don't have specific calibrations for yet, but believe me, it's coming. Because I did have a little, I think I know what he's talking about now. The meeting that I was supposed to have, I did, but I haven't covered it yet. And what Tad's asking about is my chat with my local power broker at Direct Connection. I think that's the one that you're talking about. Tad, is that right? Direct Connection at the dealership. Yes. Okay. That one is going to get a standalone video, Tad. And the reason why is I don't want to put anybody on blast. The parts manager, really good guy, took the time to answer every single one of my questions. And that's what I'm going to be talking about here in just a second. The guy is with us as far as his frustration level. And that made me feel good that at least I was talking to somebody that had some passion about him, as opposed to other people that I had spoken to that were extremely dispassionate, not just unpassionate, but they had no interest in it. But he was frustrated as well. And I will be chatting with him again fairly soon. But I can tell you this, the way that this went, and without letting the cat out of the bag, but I'm going to go ahead and let the cat out of the bag. If you have a boosted application, you'll probably be okay. Trackhawk, Hellcat, all of that should be supported, but it's going to be a secondary effort. A secondary effort because they're not making Trackhawks anymore, and by default, the Durango Hellcat. So those vehicles, if you have the urge to get the pulley and the electronics and all of that, once that becomes available, you will only have, and if you have a used Hellcat or a used Red Eye, you will only have a warranty on that vehicle, provided that you have the balance of your warranty on your car, which is to say that if you roll in there with a car like mine that's too old to have warranty, well, you don't get a warranty, even though it's dealer installed parts, software, whatever it is, it will not carry a warranty. Also, and this is the thing that completely threw me for a loop. Should you decide to buy hard parts, which would be hardware, I should say, drive shaft, axles, torque converter, rear end, etc., stuff that doesn't run on electricity, you have a 0 warranty on that particular product should you buy it and install it on a vehicle that does not have existing warranty. I'm going to let that sink in for just a minute. Let that marinate. And you guys let me know what you think about that. I'll continue. So Tad, sorry, yeah, I've been meeting with a lot of folks about a lot of different stuff lately, car related. So, yeah, good stuff, all good stuff, all in the middle. A lot of things are still being kind of compiled early on with some of this stuff too. So, lots of tire stuff. Another one of the live chats that's going to be coming up is going to be all about oil too. So let's do like a bit of a break and kind of go through some things that are going to be coming up. So I've been doing a ton of oil nerd stuff. That's going to be coming up relatively soon. So if you've got questions about oils, what oil do you use? Why do you use it? What are the differences in the oils? That live show will be coming up probably on the next live show. And we can talk about that. Some interesting things along the way. The funny thing is with oil, there's a nerd and a dork for everything. Okay. And there are a group of guys that get wound up. And when I say wound up, these guys take this stuff personally. As far as oil blends, additive packages, and all the rest of that crap. Stuff that none of us care about, none of us really want to know about. We just want to know what bottle to buy and put it in the car and let her read. Some of the things that I've been discovering along the way of this journey have been, wow, like there's some things that I didn't know you could get upset about. That some of these, this is just me kind of, lurking in the background, collecting information and, basically putting faces with names, if you will, when it comes to some of the jargon, and locking in and refreshing, because a lot of this stuff is, you don't use it, you lose it. If I haven't been around it, I just it checks out of my memory bank. And anyway, we can talk about that too. And like I say, I put together this entire spreadsheet. It's an obnoxious looking spreadsheet. That goes through a lot of different details with the oil. So anyway, fun stuff, interesting stuff, and it's always a neat topic. I get questions about what type of oil do you use? What do you recommend? All of that. So anyway, decided I would take a deep dive into it. And man, I came out the other side just kind of laughing a little bit, not laughing at anything or anybody about it, but damn, you see somebody ask about a particular oil and it's like freaking Zeus throwing lightning bolts, dude. It's just some funny ass stuff. The funniest thing is this, regardless of, and I'm sure there's some of you guys might be big into this and you're going to flame me for this, but the reality is there's not that big of a difference. When you really dig into the technical data sheets, and I know there's some subtleties to this, all right? I get it, I know. And the lightning bolts come out of the subtleties, not just the TDS, the technical data sheet. It's just so funny. Anyway, change your oil, use the viscosity that the manufacturer recommends. But there are some oils that I would recommend if you were specifically running like in hot conditions, like really hot conditions with a factory thermostat. If you were tracking the car or what have you, there are some product, lots of city driving. There are some oils that I would recommend, especially with the stock thermostat, because of how hot the oil temperature can get with the 6.4s and the 6.2s. funny thing though, I only focused on, hold on, let me see if this will work. I wish I could do a screen share. And unfortunately, you guys cannot see what I'm looking at with this obnoxious looking spreadsheet that I put together. But, or if you can, let me know. I mean, it'd be cool as hell if you could see what I'm looking at. Anyway, that I just clicked over down here and I put, there are, how many did I do here? There's 5. This is embarrassing. I did 30 different oils that I looked up, all of them 0W40 and 5W40s. And the reason why I did 5W40 and 0W40 is because there's a European A3/B4 designation that is extremely close. It's in essence, it's a 0W40. But I've got in here, I got all kinds of crap. I've got some of my notes on base oils, conventional oil references as well to compare the two. What the SAE J300 specs are for all the viscosities at 100 degrees Celsius, which is 212 degrees Fahrenheit. A quick note on D92 flash points versus D93 and an average for all of them. And without burning too much of that show on that one, the average for all 30 of these oils is at 40 degrees Celsius, which is basically 100 degrees, is 79.4 is the viscosity at 100 degrees Celsius, 13.8 with a viscosity index of 179. And that includes all synthetics, not the convos, the conventionals. So anyway, we can always get into that once I start getting into that. Let's see. Let me get back up here. Hey, Hemi Dad, thank you very much. Saying fun chat as usual. B, do you think Dodge is going to release a Halo ACR Viper style Hellcat before they are done in 2024? Not that I can afford one at $100,000. Man, you know, I tell you something. It keeps getting brought up that they are going to. The fact of the matter, though, is that there's really nothing for them to release. You're not seeing any new patents or anything like that coming down the pipe for, you know, for example, a Hellcat type of a offering. You know, you might see something with the Hellcat supercharger, but I don't know. I mean, the only answer to that question is, man, I don't know, which is a bummer about the Hellcat supercharger. That 3.0 IHI is basically a 3.0 Whipple in disguise, and it's not made by Whipple. It's completely different, but the load profile, the way that the efficiencies and the flow capacity is very similar. So, I mean, it's a shame that, you know, we just don't have access to that contraption. But I mean, at this stage of the game, that's the only thing that they could do would be to offer up that supercharger. Oh, by the way, sorry, I got a little bit off topic. Getting back to Tad's question about that little chat that I had. So if you've got a forced induction application, Hellcat or Red Eye, you are in good shape, at least in terms of being on direct connections radar. If you have a naturally aspirated vehicle, don't hold your breath. I know it says to be determined on the direct connection, what do they call it? Like the E catalog. Don't hold your breath on that. Especially with the new Hurricane engines coming. That's that inline 6. Those things have got a lot of upshot for making some power. So I would say that they would probably start looking at those before they look at NA. And the reason for that, guys, look, I've had the NA cars on the dyno. In fact, I had parked a charger, Quick Bricks charger, as a matter of fact, on the dyno, and was doing power sweeps with it, basically timing sweeps with it, trying to see if I could get any more power out of the thing just by doing the timing sweep, adding timing, running the car through the timing window, or running the car through the RPM window through the areas where I was adding timing. And guys, I just could not pull any more power out of that car. It didn't matter how I fueled it. It wanted to be rich, and it wanted to have not as much timing. And that was with E85 and 93 octane. There's just some limits to what that intake would allow. And it is what it is. So in terms of dragging more power out of them, you can't really do it. And you can't really make something, at least you can get more power out of them. What I'm getting at is you can't get a lot more power out of them. And the problem is that you can't sell anything to anybody that's not really going to get them any more power. You might get more throttle response. Maybe there's some transmission tuning in there, although they're not advertising that. Anyway, doesn't matter because they're not going to be offering it anyway, it doesn't look like. But yeah, Hemi Dad, man, I don't know. Again, the only thing they can do is take the red eye block and put the Elephant supercharger on the thing. And, you know, in talking to the gentleman, the forced induction crowd is going to have multiple stage kits. They're not just stopping at 3. There will be multiple stage kits. Presumably, there's going to be something along the lines of a supercharger upgrade, or at least the speculation is that they will. We'll see what that ends up looking like. We'll see what happens with that. But I can tell you that they need to get the rest of their staff on board quickly. It's not a good argument. It's not a good idea to get into like a really soft argument with somebody that's standing on the other side of the counter when you work there, that knows far and away more about the vehicles that you sell parts for. And I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. Oh. Let's see. Gary's asking, hey, B, I need to up my transmission, my TCM line pressure. Is base pressure and oncoming clutch enough? Yes, it is. Should I up it 5%? Anything else I should increase? Without, I mean, yeah, a whole lot of things. Without getting into like a whole tuning conversation. Yeah, you can go up 5 to 7% would be fine for base pressure. Oncoming clutch, I really don't mess with the oncoming clutch too much. It's really more about the base pressure. Oncoming clutch, yeah, I mean, I'll ramp that up a little bit, but I'll interpolate it. So I'll go like 7% at higher loads, 5%, 3% at lower loads. It basically just kind of increase a little bit more as the load goes up. But yeah, man, shift points, your shift scheduling is going to come into play with that. Lots of torque management adjustments as well. But just don't eliminate it. You can chill it out a little bit, but I've found even at the drag strip, we've tried everything under the sun to try to get that thing to be slower. Ooh. Somebody's having fun. So for you guys that don't know, yes, Z05 Studios is very close. In fact, located seemingly right in the middle of Velocito. So yeah, we got a lot of guys going out making hits tonight. So, Sovereign saying demonology is the best. Yes, he is. Let's see. I want to make sure I'm not missing anybody here. Oh, dadgummit, went too far. Hang on. Okay, let's try up here. Sorry guys, I lost track. I gotta get back. I'm doing this on the computer too, so it's a little bit different than when I do it on the phone. Oh, sorry, saying nice peeps. Now it's almost balanced. Viewers and watchers, very good. Thank you guys. I appreciate that. Andy saying good evening, Brian. Good evening, Andy. And then Tad, yeah, direct connection at the dealership. Yeah, I think that's what I was. Gary's saying I missed him. Did I miss you, Gary? Oh, up here with the line pressure. Hopefully I answered that. That's it's funny. Almost got to get that, have that sitting in front of me. Hang on, bear with me just a second. Let me look at something. Hold, please. Y'all are actually watching me as I'm pulling up my. Yeah, it sucks that I don't have share, whatever it is. I don't even have editing software, so I don't know what I'm going to be doing with that share stuff. This thing is taking forever to load up. Here we go. Wow, this thing is taking forever to load. What is the deal? Come on, you thing. My trans tab's over here messing with me. So primarily, like on your upshift. I wish I could. Here we go. In some areas I do, in some areas I don't. But for your oncoming clutch, yes, in general, I will pull some up a little bit, not a ton. I'm pulling in, I think that's right at 10% at really any engine torque above 300. I'll start ramping in a little bit more. So if you want to do it, if you want to maybe look at it as a general rule, 6 to 7% at anything more than about 220-ish foot-pounds of torque for your oncoming clutch pressure. That'll help it make the shifts a little bit crisper. And that's basically it. I don't really mess with too much on this particular car. Let's see. Bear with me just a second. Nothing in torque converter pressures either. I really don't mess with that too much. I don't even mess with maxes, fast fill pressures, or anything like that. Torque management, that's kind of a funny thing because I've experimented with that so much and I just keep not seeing anything that helps it a ton. Forced torque intervention, I will typically bring that down by about 5%. Main torque intervention can also come down usually by 5% just across the board. Let's see. Of course, you know all about shift timing and upshift. That's going to be your car specific. Nothing in general. That's it, really. Not a whole lot. I mean, I really dive into the shift scheduling more than anything else. And pressures, again, a lot of it has more to do with drivability. Wide open throttle, you're not going to really benefit by, putting the screws to it. And by the way, oncoming, off-going ramp, I don't even mess with that. I don't even bother with it. It doesn't really, there's no reason to. At least I haven't found a reason to, not with mine yet. Really with trans tuning, it's really more keep it simple as possible. I know some guys like to really fire up line pressure and things like that. The only thing I don't like about that is that there's, I guess, technically nothing wrong with it, but it can just make the thing a bit more harsh. Sorry, I was just kind of sifting through the parameters there. Let's see. But yeah, stick with those to start, and then you can kind of ramp into them a little bit more, but I just wouldn't go much past about 10%. Let's see. And I hope I didn't pass anybody. Let's see. Guitar Man saying a lot better than the last dude. If you're talking about, yeah, who I dealt with before, yeah, way, way, way better. So Sovereign's asking, did you see the article I sent you about Dodge wanting to have enthusiasts involved in direct connection? So I was going to touch on that I was going to kind of do a standalone video, and I wanted to have you guys involved in it too. So I'm kind of screwed up as far as how I wanted to actually manage my visit with direct connection and carry on my thoughts on direct connection, which really haven't changed from, several months ago when we first started trying to get parts and information and some level of involvement and care from Dodge on this, a sense of caring, I should say, aside from just throwing it out there. And by the way, one of the things that we did talk about, this conversation, actually, it was a pretty decent conversation. It's about a 30-ish minute long conversation, maybe a little bit more. But speaking of enthusiasts, the enthusiasm can't just be from management. The enthusiasm needs to be from everybody behind that counter. If I come up there and I'm asking about a red-eye drive shaft or a torque converter, or if I'm asking about axle shafts, what about the tuning solutions? There had better as hell be somebody in the back that goes, okay, listen, the torque converter might do you some good, but you're going to have to make some changes with fill rates. You're going to have to make some changes on the torque converter side of your tuning to get it to work right. Let me tell you what those are. Those are the kind of questions that are going to need to be answered. Or, yeah, it works great as a bolt-on part. Bolt it in, have your shop bolted in, and then you're good to go. You don't have to do any adjustments from there. There has to be some level of involvement, not just enthusiasm, but involvement to go along with the enthusiasm. There has to be knowledge to go along with all this, enthusiasm that's going to come with it. And I can tell you this, Dodge only has one enthusiast behind the counter of my closest power broker, at least educated or seemingly interested in wanting to talk about it. If I, as a customer, show up and I'm asking questions about direct connection, I am a high profit generating entity that just walked through the door. I'm not asking for anything for free. I'm expecting to pay high dollar for high quality parts. Be enthusiastic about it. Don't be a freaking don't be something in my way of getting my parts. Be somebody that's going to help me get the parts that I'm looking for, because roadblocks and attitude will keep me not only from buying parts from direct connection, it'll keep me from buying a car again from Dodge, Stellantis, or whatever. You talk about trying to do something nice for somebody and it not working out well, like no good deed goes unpunished. Well, you start throwing people behind the counter that are really more interested in when they're going to go to lunch next or what they're looking at on their phone than the person that's coming in looking to talk car stuff with somebody and spend significant dollars. Yeah, you might want to make sure that not only do you have an enthusiast, but you have somebody that is at least remotely interested in their fucking job that they're doing and not trying to be a goddamn comedian behind the counter. Improv is literally right next door to where that dealership is. At least it was. And I don't need to know about gas prices. Anybody coming in with a Hellcat or a red-eye question ain't necessarily sweating gas prices. Y'all don't get me started. I will get just stupid ignorant talking about that because it pissed me off to the point where I'm talking to this dude and I told myself I wasn't gonna. I'm gonna find myself a positive place to be. Oh, there it is. Right. Look at. Okay, I'm there. Motherfucker. So look, here's the thing. I walk in this bitch and one of the guys standing behind the counter, I'm asking about direct connection, and I'm told I'm basically one of the only people that have come in and asked about it. I'm not talking about phone calls. I'm talking about just showing up and asking. And on top of that, there's two of them saying, "Oh yeah, ain't nobody going to be wanting to buy that stuff. I mean, gas prices are too high and da 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 da." And I'm like, excuse me, I think the aftermarket would probably disagree with that statement. And secondly, are you kidding me? I'm actually here to talk about potentially picking up some parts, finding out what you guys have in stock. Where's so-and-so? And then the other one figuring out pretty quickly that I wasn't anybody coming and going, I want a pulley for my car. No, there's a little bit different mentality walking through your door here. And that's when I was able to talk to the guy. But you want to talk about already being turned off. I'll tell you what, had that been my only experience walking into a power broker, which you would not have any idea that you're walking into a power broker because there ain't a damn thing even saying power broker, direct connection, none of that stuff is out at all. Not only did I not want to buy a direct connection part, if the conversation would have stopped right there, I would have, one, never gone back into that dealership for anything. I don't care if I needed a spark plug, an oil filter, a pat on the back, forget about it. I wouldn't have gone back there. And by the way, I bought a car from that dealership as well. I wouldn't have gone back. Number two, I would never buy not another car from there, but no parts. And even if they are a direct connection power broker, I would have done everything I possibly could to figure out another power broker to go to. One where you're welcomed into the place and not have somebody with some stupid ass attitude, or some kind of it just being whatever about the whole thing behind the counter. The funny thing though, I haven't needed direct connection. And here's I'm just going to turn this into that show. Look, I don't need direct connection. Eat a whole dick direct connection if you're going to act like that, because I've got Dodge dealership. Okay. I've got a Dodge dealership and everything on my car has come from a regular parts bin at a Dodge dealership. And with the only exception being the red-eye drive shaft that was gifted to Little Miss Revlon by multiple Mopars. Always a big thanks for that. And so because of that, I've got a parts bin car sitting right over here that was built right out of a Dodge parts place that is not a power broker, that has bent over backwards to look up parts and to be a friend of the show. And all of that has come from Mac Hike Dodge here in Houston, which they didn't have to do any of that. They didn't have to do any of this stuff. But they're like, yeah, we can get that for you. I think we can figure out a way to do that. And my guy Ernesto over there, always rocking the house with his, customer service that blows the doors off of anything that I saw coming from my local power broker. Nothing against the manager guy, by the way. You could tell that he was a bit shackled in this and he was being a bit reserved. This is not geared towards him. This is geared towards the first 5 minutes, that first impression that I got, not only on the first trip into the place, but on the second trip into this place. And if it sounds like I'm being a dick, then let me remind everybody that dicks like me are the ones that are going in there and spending the kind of money that it takes to keep direct connection afloat. If I go in there with a bad experience, I'm going straight to the aftermarket, straight to the same aftermarket that was taking care of my ass when direct connection didn't exist. And when the only parts that I was buying, by the way, were coming out of literally coming out of a parts bin at a Dodge dealership that takes me 3 times as long to get to, that I am significantly happier to do and to make the drive than I would be to go to my power broker. So y'all tell me, why in the hell would I even go to a power broker? Since we don't have any of the electronics and the end in sight is nowhere to be seen. Hard parts, who cares about the hard parts? There's no warranty to be involved in it whatsoever, unless you have existing warranty lasting on your car and it has to be dealer installed. Yeah, okay, fine with that. But you mean to tell me I'm going to be dealing with people that are about as enthusiastic about this as, you know, do you want fries with that, or do you want ham or bacon on your sandwich? And have absolutely no livery anywhere that you can see walking into the place. Nothing in the parts bin, nothing on the backside, not even a freaking hat, not even a t-shirt. All right, nothing. No reason for me to get worked up, excited, happy, or even motivated, stimulated to start slinging coin up in this bitch like it's the freaking end of the world. And I'm being asked to go in there and actually spend my kind of money with the type of person that I wouldn't want to spend any time with whatsoever. This shit is relationship based. It's based on emotion. Do you think I need to spend money on a perfectly good functioning automobile sitting in the shop? Hell no. I could be spending that money on anything under the sun. Hell, gas prices are high. Whatever. People that are into this are going to spend money on perfectly good automobiles because they're never perfectly right. So Mopar, thinking that they're going to get in on this game, let me tell you something. You better step your game up. That ain't even okay, you would hear that. It almost sounds like a cliche. Get game first. You can't step up nothing if you ain't got nothing. And right now, the only game that I've seen come out of my power broker dealership is a whipped to death, I feel bad for the dude, enthusiast back there dealing with a bunch of corporate dicks that aren't letting this guy do his job. Now, I'm not coming in here to white knight for this dude, but I'm telling you right now, yeah, I kind of am in a way. And when you're surrounded by folks that are as disinterested as you could possibly get in the whole process, and there's no library and there's no corporate top-down support for this, and everything that you're working on and everything that you're putting together from a direct connection and a marketing point of view has been put on hold month after month after month. Little wonder why the guy was kind of in a not bad mood, but I got it, man. We're like this. We cool. But if you think I'm going back into that dealership, for what? What am I going to get out of it? What am I going to get out of it? I'm going to go get in that dealership. Hopefully they've seen this. And maybe I'll see a smile behind the counter instead of somebody with a fucking attitude, or at least somebody that's thinking that, oh, here comes somebody else asking about direct connection. We don't have anything. Man, have a little wherewithal when you're talking to somebody. But again, I don't know. It's painful. I'll just put it to you that way. All right, rant over. Personal opinion aside. Dad's Garage, thanks, man. Asking is Dodge losing their special? I'm just concerned. They seem to have no idea what got them here, and they seem to be just flushing the success formula. Yeah, you know, I tell you something. There's some times where you think that, okay, so it's marketing. This is marketing 101. This is how Harley Davidson got so popular at one point in time. They sell a lifestyle. All right, they sell stuff, and then they also happen to sell motorcycles. Dodge is really falling in lockstep with that type of marketing strategy where they're trying to sell tradition, but the tradition that they're trying to sell is really more based in a lifestyle, and then they also sell the cars that come along with it. By the way, speaking of the cars that come along with it, I'm putting another one together. It's like my I guess it'd be a 3-year ownership experience with the Hellcat, but also just owning Challengers in general. And what it's going to go over in essence is it's my thoughts on the car. So it's going to be kind of a my thoughts standalone video, but it's going to be kind of going through me trying to translate what the Challenger is, not really what the Charger is, but what the Challenger is, and how it's almost got like I've got my notes up here. What do I say? It's got a bit of an identity crisis in a way. So between that, some quality things, and I don't know. I've got like 5 points already up on the board over here. Trying to walk my way through that one's going to be kind of weird. So anyway, let me get back to you guys. Let's see. So saying, what up, B? Hope you're doing well. Doing well. So I was asking, can you kind of explain it when people say they can take the aggressiveness out of a cam in a tune? So what they're, well, you really can't do anything with the cam in the tune. What they're talking about is idle quality. And in that case, you're going to raise the idle RPM a little bit, pull timing back a little bit to try to keep the thing from bucking. Those are some things that you're going to do to try to chill the cam out a little bit at idle. Sometimes it works. Depends on the cam. And when you start getting real aggressive with the cam, you can end up getting yourself into a situation where the car just isn't very, it's less streetable. It's less chill on the street, so to speak. Makes it a little bit more high strung. Oh, Shannon saying, I've thought about going 20W race oil. No need in having 0W when it's 90 degrees outside. You'll find that going to 20 won't do you much good. The idea with a 20W, so you're setting yourself up for a range at this point. So you're thinking like 20W50 is a real common race oil. The problem with that is that somebody's got a serious ass sound system out there. The problem with that is that you can find yourself without enough oil temperature to get the viscosity down on the hot side of your oil weight, of your oil viscosity rating, of your weight rating, if you will. You can find yourself with not enough oil temperature, and basically you've got what would end up being, I'll tell you exactly what it would be. The range on a 20W50 or your 50 portion of your 20W can fall anywhere between 16.3 and 21.89 on that viscosity range. You're going to find a median of that somewhere around 19. And that's at 100 degrees Celsius. You would really have to drive that number up to like 200, and depending on the viscosity index, you'd have to have that oil around 260 degrees before the viscosity would be about the same as running a 0W40 at about 110 degrees Celsius, if that makes any sense. Or basically 225 or 230 degrees. You'd have to be at least 30 degrees higher than that for the oil to basically thin out enough to where it would make sense to run an oil that heavy. Another thing, the W number, which I didn't really pay a lot of attention to, is still going to be really high. You're still going to have to let the thing warm up to get your the actual viscosity down into that 79.4, which is the average range. But the number on that actually ranges from, this will blow your mind too, taking out like the Rotella T6 and a couple of these other oils, the highest 40 degree viscosity came from Champion, which was 86.2. The lowest, just so you know, came from Castrol Edge Euro A3B4 040 at 66. Their 5W40 A3B4 is at 69. That'll give you an idea of the range that we're talking about. Pretty significant range, by the way. Let's see. Oh, and by the way, when it's 90 degrees outside, you're basically sitting right at your 40-degree viscosity number, just sitting there. So it's like the car is already warmed up, just kind of sitting there as far as the oil is concerned. 90 degrees to 104 degrees, you're not going to get a huge variance in that viscosity, the actual viscosity of the oil. Oh, blue collar saying might as well let somebody else do the job if there's no warranty. I would agree. Guitar man saying it's a different world we live in for sure. Roy, thank you very much. Appreciate the contribution. Saying sorry to be just now coming in on your teaching. Sounds like you're mad at somebody. Yeah, a little bit, man. Look, it's not anger. It's a disappointment level that I'm at, and look, it's not even the people that are behind the counter that I'm mad at. I don't want this to be misconstrued. It's not that they don't care. Well, maybe it is. Maybe they do care. Maybe they've cared at one point and have been let down so much that they're just apathetic to the whole thing, which I get. Look, I'm on their side if that's the case. And I'm kind of giving them an out on this, by the way, by saying that. And I recognize that. But you can tell that they've probably fielded some questions. They keep having to say, I don't know. And they're sick of telling people, I don't know. So what I'm mad at is Dodge. What I'm really mad at is that they've made me feel that way about people that are standing behind the counter, that maybe they've inflicted this on them. Maybe they've inflicted this sense of apathy for this direct connection thing that they keep hearing about. Maybe that's what it is. But you have to remember, I'm not in that mindset when I'm in that position. I'm not going to think, oh, I need to be understanding of this person that seems to be very dismissive of me. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you have a really crappy waiter experience. Maybe that person's just having a bad day. Maybe they got some bad news. Maybe whatever, right? It's the same thing here, except it goes a little bit deeper, because when I go to a restaurant, I'm not spending $2,000-$3,000 on a single plate item, which is in essence what I'm doing when I walk into a dealership and we're talking about drive shafts or, start picking hardware, right? Not to mention, not even talking about the tuning side on the software end. So do I understand their apathy? Absolutely I do, because I'm there. This is me being apathetic now towards direct connection. This is me not caring anymore. This is me looking at this and thinking, well, damn, I'm the guy behind the counter. I'm the guy now behind the counter with somebody coming to me, asking me questions about, hey, man, what's the latest with the tune? What's the latest with the software? And then I go back and talk to people just like you guys and I are talking, just like I talked to you guys right after I gave you this scenario. And now it sounds like I've chilled out a little bit, but I haven't. I'm just now seeing it from a different point of view. Like I've had to literally go through all of these steps and stages to get to the point now, because that's how I felt then, to get to the point now where I can say, look, guys, girls behind the counter, I totally understand it. Totally feel you 100%. I'm right there with you. I'm pissed. I'm apathetic. And there ain't nothing that any of us can apparently do about this. The lack of livery, the lack of promotion, the lack of a desire, it seems like, to bring something or anything to the table other than just saying, come visit your power broker, who you would not even know is a power broker when you walk through the door. That's corporate. That's corporate's fault. That's corporate's mismanagement of the direct connection brand. Who's the territory manager in all of this? That poor guy or girl's got to be losing their freaking mind, having to walk around wearing a direct connection shirt and not having anything to show for it. Not cool. So guys, I'm not mad at you. I'm mad with you. And if I'm loud and I'm making a bunch of noise about it, It's because I'm passionate about it. Maybe I share the same passion that you used to have for this. But that passion is fleeting. And again, like they say, no good deed goes unpunished. And this is why people keep turning to the aftermarket. Problem is, the aftermarket doesn't speak fluent Mopar, and they're expecting the power brokers to do so. Again, I blame corporate for this. Definitely mismanaged 100%. Dads, hey, thank you, brother. Asking, do I know where oil pressure should be in the Z06? It's like 25 to 35, maybe 40 when it's cold. I'm just used to the scat hanging around 30 to 50-ish. That sounds about right. Hang on. Let's see. Sorry. For yours, it sounds about right for the Z06. I think the LS the LS combinations are typically right around there. You should be like at 65 to 70 once you actually get some RPM into it. And I just saw this one pop up. Hey, Smokey, I got something for you. The reason why I'm complaining and bitching about it is because they screwed up. All right. And if you want to come into the channel and say, I'm doing some bitching and griping about Dodge, I should get a motherfucking Chevy. Hey, dude, you know what? I can complain about it because I'm a consumer spending money. All right. And since I've spent a hell of a lot of money on Dodges, and I've done a lot of work with Dodges, and I see them doing something wrong, I'm going to say something about it. So stick with your Mopar, and hopefully Direct Connection will, I don't know, give you something decent enough to feel good about. While you're at it, keep riding that legendary status of Mopar right into the ground, which is about where it's heading, considering that there won't be an LX platform here in the next couple of years. And by the way, yeah, I've got 2 GMs, as a matter of fact. The oldest vehicles in the fleet are Chevys and Fords. Dad's Garage is saying, I've never seen more than 40. Maybe I'm just watching the road when I'm in the throttle. I'm sure it's fine. Yeah, we've got the Camaro, the Camaro, the C10 are the GMs. The Mustang is the Ford. Obviously, the Hellcat, the work truck. The Jeep is technically a Mopar. Yeah. Shalandra was a Mopar. The other work truck was a Mopar. Yeah. How many of these things have I worked on and tuned? About a Brazilian of them. Let's see. Get back up here real quick. If they're worried about gas prices, they bought the wrong car. That's Sovereign checking in. Guitarman saying, calm down. You know what? It's hard for me sometimes to remain calm. I'm a pretty passionate guy. So, and if I get into something, I'm really into it. So, Burns asking, how many miles should you have on the vehicle before you change transmission fluid? These vehicles are fill for life, although I don't know that I agree with that 100%. I think I would probably change it at about the 50,000 to 60,000 mile mark, but that's kind of some old school thinking. I know that in the fleet, we've got these trucks with over 300,000 miles that have never seen a transmission flush. And those are all 2017 trucks. We got 250. My truck's at 150. Quite a bit of these trucks that have nobody's even thought about swapping fluid in these things. Oh, Modern Hemi saying he's got the same great relationship with his dealership, and that's the thing. You know, I've got a fantastic relationship with a dealership that, you know, if I need to get parts, I can get parts. And the beauty of that relationship is that it's this whole situation. The beauty of the whole situation is that, guys, we've run 10 O's with a parts bin car. Who does that? Like nobody does. And that's the thing. That's the fun part about all of this, is that all of the parts, the hard parts, have come from just a regular Dodge dealership. The rear diff, Dodge dealership. Rear seat delete, same Dodge dealership. The sway bar, same Dodge dealership. Everything in my car has come from that same Dodge dealership except for the idler pulleys. Which, by the way, my stock idler pulleys look like fishing weights. Those things are terrible. If you're like fishing for whales, those things look like they're dredged out of a ditch. Let me make sure I'm not skipping anybody here. Like I say, this is a little bit different from using the phone to film these. Let's see. And again, Hemi Dad, thank you, buddy. Oh, Will Talk's asking, hey, what are your thoughts on the Mopar performance headers versus a third-party offering like Cook's? Go with the Cooks. Sovereign saying ACR Challenger would be sweet. It would be. I just don't know what they would do or how they would go about it. And that's part of that identity crisis that I feel like the Challenger really does have. Oh, Hemi Dad saying, I think they're barely keeping up with what they can sell now. I'd really be surprised if they put something else out there gas powered anyway. Yeah, it would be tough. And I understand parts availability and all of that. There's so many other things that are going on. But again, I'm not allowed to be able to just throw parts availability, supply chain, things like that. There's certain things that you have to understand, but that people are still getting frustrated. And if people are getting frustrated, they're going to voice their opinions of their frustration, plain and simple. Modern Red saying, sorry, came in late. Probably came in the middle of my rant. Brian saying, Mobil 1 engine oil is good oil for Ford Focus 2017. Yeah, it's good for anything you put it into. It's good stuff, really good stuff. J Master's asking, any maintenance that is commonly overlooked that you would suggest? I do my own work and enjoy nitpicky details. Your cabin filter, that's one that everybody forgets. Air filters, believe it or not, are one where guys will just kind of let it ride, and you need to be swapping those out. I would say at bare minimum, at least once a year. I prefer to see them swapped out about every 6 months if you're running the paper filters. Let's see, what else? Rear diff. If you're beating on the car quite a bit, rear diff fluid is going to be something that you're going to want to swap out once. I'd say about once, again, depending on how you're beating on it, about once every. And with rear diff fluid, it's actually more time-based also. I would say about every year to year and a half, somewhere around 30,000-ish, 25,000-ish miles. Check and make sure. Nut and bolting is another one. It just makes sure stuff is torqued down properly. I just go over the car, make sure that there's nothing weird going on. A lot of guys forget to do that when they're doing the oil changes, but at that point, there's a lot of things that you can do just by looking around the car in general, seeing what's going on with, making sure you don't have something wedged in your radiator. There's a bunch of weird little things. It's just visually inspecting it and making sure everything is good. Um, let's see. Okay, here we are. Okay, I'm back here. Guitar saying, calm down. Let's see. Taxner saying he went there. Yeah, I kind of did. Didn't really want to, but there, and I'm going to do a standalone that's going to kind of go over a lot of the same stuff. X is saying Professor B out here speaking the truth. Yeah, I mean, like I say, I feel for these folks more than you know. And listen, any criticism that I have is coming from a place of love. Direct Connection saying, or Tax and say Direct Connection needs to provide the same service or exceed the service of aftermarket providers, and that's a really good point. And I didn't even think of that, but it's a good point that he brings up, because you're expecting there's a certain level of expectation that you're looking towards. Wow, yes, we are coming to a Dodge dealership for hot rod Dodge stuff. That's really cool. Maybe they should have a more direct connection with the people that are showing up. But again, that's top down. I blame it. Kobe's laughing. Hemi's epic rant. Kurt Tank's in from California. I like it. Sovereign saying I woke the beast. Saying I love it. Modern Red saying for sure. Well deserved at Dodge. Yeah. Kurt saying you speak your mind. Yeah, I do. Regardless of the trouble that it seems to get me into. Car wash saying I just walked in on a spicy Professor B tonight. Yeah, a little bit. Kurt saying product, price, place, and promotion. That's right. The 4 P's: product, placing, pricing, and promotion. The 4 P's of marketing. Very good one, sir. Speaking my language now. And thank you again, Roy. I appreciate that. So Kobe's saying that his direct connection told him that the stage kits were waiting on emission testing from all the states. That is also what I heard, but I don't know. So they do have to go through emissions testing, and you would think that they wouldn't, because all they're doing is throwing boost at them. The emissions testing is a lot more complicated than you might think, but it's not as complicated as people like to try to make it out to be. In my opinion, if you can make a demon pass with the high octane mode, then you should be able to pass pretty much anything. Now, if the rules have changed, that's kind of more the point. If the rules have changed, then it might be a little bit different story. And that might be what they're potentially up against. I have no idea. Taxner saying California be the holdup on emissions as always. There's actually that could be right. Sovereign's liking the Challenger. X is saying I went to a local Dodge dealership about a month ago, and they had nothing to promote direct connection. It's honestly pathetic. It's kind of my point. Spent money on heads. That's what I did on my boat for sure. But I agree, Sovereign. I like them both. When I do the standalone video about the Challenger, you'll hear a little bit about my ideas or my thoughts on that Challenger. Let's see. Sovereign's hanging out with Roy. Roy saying, I want to race my Scat Pack on the track. My helmet is a 2008 that's too old, or should I get a new one and just get a jacket that's fireproof? You can get a jacket. You won't be required to by NHRA. That Simpson right there is about $450. I don't necessarily think that you need that. The 2008, Um, so the helmet that you always see me wearing, which is the black and silver one, that one's from 2000. And full stop, it's from 2000. In fact, hang on. This one, just because this thing has got so much sentimental value, if you can see it. Where's the marker on this thing? Where is it? Here we go. Let's see if I can get some light in here. Anyway, yeah, it's got its, you won't be able to see this on the thing, but yeah, it's still got its 2000 cert. This is the helmet. So this helmet and I have been through a lot together. This helmet has been with me, well, now for 22 years. This is the helmet that I was wearing at the very first Viper Owner Invitational that I went to, where I won stock displacement, the stock displacement class, third place for naturally aspirated. So I was first place stock displacement, naturally aspirated, and I was third in the naturally aspirated class. And there's a picture of me doing a burnout in 2003, and I'm actually wearing this helmet looking right at the guy taking my picture. So that was a lot of fun. The car ran 1054. Let's see. Let's see. Bear with me, guys. Bear with me. I get up and then I lose my spot. Anyway, talking about helmets. If you want to get a helmet, the Scorpion, which is that one, the very far, this one right here. I'm like a weather guy. The one on the far, your right, I guess, my left. I guess when you're looking at this, it'd be my left too. Anyway, that thing was only like $120, and it's a Snell rated helmet, I think, isn't it? Hang on, let me grab it. This thing's actually the messed up thing about this helmet is just how good it is. And it didn't cost anything. I don't know, it's DOT certified. It's got all the letters and stuff on the back. I got this one as a backup, and I got to tell you, this helmet is really freaking good. Like really spooky good. So I was kind of wondering if they didn't charge me the right price for it. But anyway, good ass helmet. If you're thinking about getting a Simpson, so the weird thing about the Simpson is if you're used to wearing motorcycle helmets, the Simpson helmet doesn't fit like a motorcycle helmet. It's going to fit kind of high on your head a little bit, whereas the motorcycle helmet seems to come down a little bit further. Let's see. I have to start, man. We're coming up on about 2:08, 2 hours and 8 minutes. Let's see. You get to some of you guys. Sorry, saying direct connection. You done messed up. Yep. Dad and I were talking about Dad's garage and I talking about his oil pressure. Yeah, I never really paid attention to it in the Z06, to be honest with you. I only drove it a handful of times. Oh, Gary's saying he rented a 2015 Z06 for his vacation in July. Fun car, real fun car. And Dad just saying, dang, your driveway seems as crowded as ours. Yeah. Yeah, and I'm looking for something right now too, if you can believe it. How stupid. Anyway, so here's the thing. I've got my GMC, the Camaro, it's my wife's car, and the Mustang. There's a vehicle that I've kind of always wanted, and I'm passively looking for. So initially I was going to build a Challenger for the channel. The problem is that the cars are just way too expensive right now. It's not feasible. A lot of cars are way too expensive. But I've got a thing for J20 Jeep pickup trucks. And so there's one like right around the corner, and I'm too much of a little sissy to go talk to these people, mainly because I'm afraid I'll end up buying it. And it's in pretty rough shape, but it looks like all the hard parts are there. And I just want to get a beat up J20, man. I don't know what it is about those trucks. I just freaking love them. And it's beat up too. I mean, it fits the bill. So for me, it would be like a, 2-inch lift on 31 slot mags. That would be kind of the way that I would build it. But anyway, and I also basically anything that's Jeep, I'm a big fan of. So, but let's see. Bear with me just a second. God, every time I get up and move, this thing kind of gets scrambled. Let's see. Sovereign saying, I'm going to kind of skip around here for just a second, guys. By the way, B has this. Yeah, B's owned a lot of Chevys. Smokey's asking, wasn't Jeep a Ford at one time? Actually, it was. Jeeps were built by Ford during World War II. They were built by Willis Overland, and Ford as well made them. Sovereign saying, Lexus says lifetime on the training fluid, but there's no such thing in my opinion. The funny thing is, so if you talk to oil guys, the oil itself never really goes bad, provided that it's kept within its temperature range and under a flash point. The oil itself never goes bad, but the additive package is what breaks down. So I was able to talk to a gentleman at Nationals for an obnoxious amount of time about oil. It's one of the reasons why I wanted to do the oil show, was because of that conversation that I had. And he kind of schooled me on a lot of stuff. And if nothing else, absolutely validated some things that I had thought about oil. And again, that is that the oil itself really doesn't go bad, but the ad pack breaks down quite a bit. It can break down quite a bit. And again, a lot of that is temperature based. So with trans fluid never really getting to those temperatures, I think that's why they did the whole fill for life thing with those trannies. Now I'm kind of with you. I feel weird about having fluid in anything for that amount of time, but I'm really more worried about like the base numbers, the total base number. Is it going to be able to keep, the acids and the breakdowns away from the metals and the things that really cause problems when you have aluminum cases and things like that. So anyway, I'm right there with you. Oh, Smokey's saying he's seeing old transmissions with fluid and end up killing the tranny. So the reason for that is the fluid itself ends up getting so much clutch material in it that as the clutch is engaged, the fluid actually is basically bringing clutch material back to those wear surfaces. That's why you would see in some cases the transmission it really should be rebuilt, but it still works because that fluid is still in the transmission. The filter is not going to get it all out. That's the way it was explained to me, and I guess it makes sense. But yeah, I would say that that could potentially be a problem. Let's see. Oh, Andrew's asking. He's got a 2016 Dodge Charger 5.7 RT. I have the Hellcat airbox and snorkel installed. Good mod. With the Mopar Performance Fancy too. Very good. I have the Taser. Cool. Great tires. Which mod should I do next? Look at an exhaust system for that thing and a tune, but do them both at the same time. If you don't get the exhaust system, at least get a tune on that thing. It'll wake it up quite a bit, give you a lot more underfoot. If you live in an area where getting a tune might be a problem, look at a pedal commander or pedal box or any other signal intercept for that contraption. It'll probably you'll wish you'd have had it a long time ago. It'll help you adjust the gas pedal sensitivity. Oh, Sovereign's hanging out with Smokey on that deal with the trans. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I've heard of that and I've seen it before too. So I have to agree with you, bud. Dodge employees are assholes, especially ones behind the counters. You know, it's funny, man. At the dealership that I go to, obviously I've got a great relationship with one of the guys that works there. There's always the curmudgeon that's hanging out in the back somewhere, or in some cases there is. But you know, it's just a bit of a bummer when you're dealing with folks that basically you feel like they just didn't want to. They don't want to be there. They certainly don't want to hear about your stories. I can tell you that. That's what the signal is that I seem to get. They don't want to hear about what I have to say or any story that I say. There's what car is it going in? I feel like I was at AutoZone. That's the other thing. Not that I have anything against AutoZone, Napa, Fun Parts, or whatever you get. The thing is, I felt like I was like, if I go to a Dodge dealership and I give somebody a part number, go get me the part number. Don't ask me what car it's going on. Don't validate what I'm telling. Just if I tell you I want part number XYZ123, I need it PDQMF. Okay, so I'm not there like with this part number. I'm asking for it specifically. And if I need something specific for my car, I'll give you the last 8 of the VIN. But I don't have to do that because, you know, I've got a dealership that I work with. It works out great. So, Hemi dad saying pick up a straight 6 TJ. Funny you should mention that. We'll see what happens in the next few weeks. CJ5. Actually, no, CJ7 is another one that may accidentally just show up. But we've already got a CJ, or not a CJ. Technically, it's a anyway. Start talking about Jeeps. I love Jeeps. That's my thing. I used to be a huge Jeep fanatic. But I do start to get all the letters mixed up because I'm a little bit dyslexic. So I'll start to get the letters completely scrambled. Smokey's asking, what do you think about the Mopar Dyno rear end? It's an amazing rear end. The Vipers have a modified 44, and the old school stuff all ran Dyno 60s. King saying his buddy got a tune for his 2017 Chrysler 300 Hemi, and he netted like 40 more horsepower. I would love to see a tune file that would get you 40 more, my man. That's like cam, intake, porting, exhaust. That's a lot of stuff that would get you 40. So either that or listen, dynos are weird, and I'll just say as long as he's happy with it and it's running good, that's all that matters. He said also he's now got long tubes and 3-inch exhaust. Should sound good. Oh, Smokey's saying try Harmon's four-wheel drive in Tulsa. He might have what you're looking for. I'll have to look at that. There's a place in Sealy that does a lot of work with those as well. I mean, I was looking at Cherokee Chiefs too. The problem is the coin, bro. See, oh my God, everything that used to be disposable is now people are asking stupid money for these days. See, I mean, if the deal's good and the price is right, I'm not looking to flip, right? So I'm not trying to get the cheapest contraption out there, but it can't be somebody that's trying to, I don't want to be on the tail end of a vehicle flip, which is, to be honest with you guys, kind of what it feels like and kind of what it looks like from a lot of these folks. They're just asking way too much money for them. Let's see. Oh, King saying, and it's as fast as a stock Scat Pack. Very cool. Very cool. Let's see. I'd like to see it at the track. I'd like to see it at the track on a tire against a Scat Pack on a tire. It's fun to see how, some of these cars run really good. And like I say, I've been able to drag some power out of some 5.7s. So, let's see. Oh, here we go. Sovereign Sound. I took care of the battery corrosion issue I had earlier. Good. Picked up some battery contact cleaner, took care of it all, just spray it, let it sit for a few minutes and wash it off. Yeah, because that was kind of weird on that one. Hemi Dad saying he got an 04 TJ in December and loved the thing. Yeah, my wife's is an 09. In fact, I just put tires on that thing about a month ago. Sovereign saying I replaced the air filter too, and I noticed throttle response is more responsive. That's one of the things that a lot of guys will. I mean, it's just something you forget about. The truck's running fine. You don't think about that, especially the paper filter. El Picasso saying, "Who doesn't like a nice rear end?" Damn right. Let me say, no cruiser electronics or any of that crap. Hey, I'll tell you something. My wife's 09. People shit on the 3.8, and I don't know why, because I am not a fan of the 3.6 and the Jeeps. That 3.8 drug that little Jeep through what it was in essence axle deep mud, with her sending mud flying up into the air. I mean, like into orbit. And that thing was bouncing off the rev limiter. It still has, she somehow or another ceramic coated her entire exhaust system with that red, East Texas clay, because it's still the same color. It ain't coming off. So, and that's been a couple of years ago. That Jeep, love that. I like that Jeep a lot. That's her baby though. That is her number one baby. Oh, Roy, thank you very much. Saying thanks for the information on the helmet use. I have a full face motorcycle helmet. Being Mopar family, have a good night. Have to work early. Understood. Thank you very much for the contributions, Roy. Everybody have a nice Memorial holiday. You too, for sure, Roy. Thank you, buddy. Right underneath that, Sovereign saying changing the air filter is a pain in the ass because Lexus puts all that beauty cover stuff. I know, right? Sovereign saying had El Picasso. The Dodge Challenger certainly has that, nice and thick. Smokey's talking about an exhaust and tune. Exhaust and tune is like the number one thing for any of the 5.7s. Exhaust system, tune, let her rip. That alone will pick up more power, and obviously with the throttle response you can get, it's significantly better. So I'm saying it was long overdue for sure. He's saying Mrs. B's ordering the Jeep. Yeah, that thing is awesome. Smokey's saying AutoZone gave me this wrong part every time over at AutoZone, dude. I know, and it's gosh, yeah, it's tough, man. And then the other part is you go to your local, like your walk-in auto parts store, and it's a it's basically somebody that I mean, God knows they know more than you, but they know more than you only in that they know more of what is like a really horrible game of telephone layer of getting their information. Like they've heard information that is like 6 or 8 layers away from the truth. Anyway, it's yeah, I get it, man. Smoke saying he wants to buy his parts from somebody that turns wrenches before, not somebody that learns from a computer. The problem is that nobody does that anymore, apparently. And like for me, if you're a mechanic, a parts gig, like a parts store gig, would be like a kind of a cool retirement gig. Part-time, make some extra beer money and do your thing, right? But you just don't get that. They hire anybody that'll walk in the door and put on the shirt, and as long as they can ask you, if you just have the right key code for your car for the part that you're looking for, they can usually look it up. But it's rare to find somebody behind the counter that can actually give you any real advice. It just doesn't work like that. But bear with me. Okay, guys. Well, with that, I got to wrap it up because we're coming up on almost 2.5 hours into this one. Did a marathon show tonight, but that was a lot of fun, guys. I really want to thank each and every one of you guys for hanging out with me. I really had a good time with this one. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up. Guys, love each and every one of y'all. Would not do this without y'all. Remember, get out there and do something cool for somebody. Chances are they need it more than you know. Send it, don't bend it. Keep your shiny side up, and Ray, miss you, lover, brother. And with that, that is a wrap. Y'all get out there and have a safe Memorial Day weekend. Appreciate everybody for their service. And with that, now it's a wrap. Y'all have a great one. Adios.